All right, everyone, welcome in, welcome in. Thank you all. You are in attendance for the 2025 STPGA Virtual College Golf Seminar here hosted. My name is Lexi Sobieski. I serve as the Director of Junior Golf here for the section. And then with me, I do have Connor Murphy, who is our Prestige Tour Manager. So we just wanted to provide this opportunity this evening to give you a different variety and perspective for golf and what is after your career as a junior. Also discussing the mental aspect of it, and then also PGM programs, what that entails and what it is. And then lastly, following up with some college recruitment questions, what it's like, and just a whole bunch of questions regarding that. So once again, thank you so much for taking some time to spend this evening with us, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Up first, we have John Phillips, PGA member. He is with One Way Golf. And he, first off, John, I just want to ask a question. What is One Way Golf, and what is your role with the company?
Sure. So I'll give you the long version here. So, One Way Golf is a process-driven platform designed to identify and support a player's goals in an effort to produce satisfaction and success. And I'm going to use a little bit of one-way speak as we go along here. And the first one there is satisfaction and successful. We call them S-squared players. And that's really what we're striving to do. It's designed to define a student's goals, and as a one-way coach, it is my job to give the proper tools to my students so that they can have success and satisfaction on and off the golf course. I started with One Way Golf just a couple years ago. It's developed by what's become a really good friend of mine, Michael Riggs, and he's a PhD in sports psychology. And his One Way platform, I reached out to him to become a student. And after I did it for like 4 or 5 months, I just thought it was an amazing program. And he asked me if I had interest in becoming a one-way golf coach. And I certainly did, and was honored by that. And so then I spent another about 5 or 6 months with him, going over and learning all the material and how to become a one-way golf coach. So that's kind of my start. So a little bit more as a one-way golf coach, I work with my students to motivate and inspire them. And I want to help them move their performance from the practice range to the golf course, increase their concentration and emotional control, obtain and maintain high levels of confidence at all times, and help them cut strokes, but increase success and satisfaction. And a real quick blurb here. One is an acronym. The O is for taking ownership and organization of your golf game. N is for inner and outer environment. And the E is for execution. And so that's kind of, we cover a lot of stuff on and off the golf course so that you can, just be a lot more comfortable with everything you're doing on the golf course, and so that it doesn't spill over and you do really well off the golf course as well.
Very nice. And then going into that, as you are a coach and work on the mental side now, helping juniors and other athletes, what would you say the biggest setback is that players make now for their mental game with golf?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it's hard to narrow it down. But I'm gonna do what I see the most, and I think I just see so many players get so down on themselves when things aren't going right. And really good results come from good processes and good habits, and we're very into that with One Way Golf. I find that just too many players become overly result oriented on the golf course. And the best players are defined by their preparing for the shot that is in front of them, and only that shot. So I think as a player, we get ahead of ourselves. We get bogged down with that 3-footer we just missed on the hole before, and then it affects our next shot. And, I think, to become mentally strong and to get over some of these setbacks, it's really a matter of, staying in the moment. And the best players gather all the information required for them to hit the next shot, and they don't cloud their minds with anything but the result that they envision. They achieve this by going through their routine that cues them to stay in the moment. The best players accept the result of the shot, just execute it, and move on to their next shot. In other words, they don't get ahead of themselves. They don't let a past shot bother them. So, and in my experience, I think average players hit a lot of golf shots that they have not fully committed to. And, just a quick example of that may be standing over a shot and not committed to what the wind is doing, maybe be unsure of themselves, not sure if they want to hit a hard 7 or a knockdown 6, and they go through the motions and they hit a shot and they were never fully committed to what they were doing. They never saw the shot that they wanted to hit and the outcome that they wanted, and they went ahead and made the swing anyway. I mean, I think we've all been guilty of that from time to time. So I always say I can live with a less than ideal outcome if I'm absorbed in my commitment. If I can hit a shot, if I hit a shot with doubt, fear, or uncertainty, this is an unforced error. And, I've completely failed in my execution process at that point. So, even the best players in the world sometimes make swings with some doubt. And so I think if we can just commit, to what we're doing out there and not get ahead of ourselves, not get behind ourselves, I think that we're going to do really well out there and we can overcome that setback.
Yeah, great answer. And then, everyone talks about, I need to practice my putting. I need to, work on my chipping. My drives need to have more of a draw, or I need to work on hitting them straight. And in my case, that is anyways. But next question is, how important is it to focus on the mental side in addition to those skills of driving, chipping, putting? How does that work in a junior side?
Well, I think I look at golf as a 4-pronged stool. Okay, and each one of the legs is a different prong. So we've got golf instruction, we've got golf equipment, we've got physical, getting in shape and working out, and I think the fourth one is really the mental side of playing golf. And unfortunately, I think that one gets overlooked the most. And I think it's really, it's low fruit, low hanging fruit that most people just kind of miss out on. So I think we need to give the mental side a little bit more credibility as we're going forward. I think, being mentally fit is essential to playing your best golf. I don't think there's any question about that. And it's important to develop your ways, your processes, how you do things on the golf course. And so when it comes to the mental side of golf, I'm going to say a big part of the mental side is having a plan. And, a practice plan, a plan on how to approach your tournament golf. You should have a pre-thought out club selection for every tee shot that you're going to hit before you ever get to the tournament. That should be something you're doing the night before, so that you've played your practice round. You should be able to check the weather. You should know where the wind's coming out of. You should not put yourself into a position on the golf course in tournament golf that you're going to make a decision based on emotion. You should already have it planned out. And there may be times that you don't necessarily 100% stick to that plan, depending on how you're hitting the ball that day, how great your confidence is. But, there's not a football team that you ever watch that doesn't have a game plan going into the game. And golfers have to do the same thing. They have to have a plan for what they're doing out on the golf course. And I think that gets missed a lot. And so then the last part of that, I think, is when you're practicing, every practice shot you hit should mimic your way of executing a shot that you would hit in a tournament. I see so many kids and adults that just rake one ball over after another, and then they don't understand why, when they're on the golf course, they're not committed to what they're doing. And it's because they don't practice being committed to what they're doing. And so if we can do a better job of that, it is going to just bring you back such great results on the golf course. So, maybe more quality and less quantity in your practice, and go through every step and every process of how you're going to play golf and learn to do it on the practice tee, on the practice green. So that's my thoughts on that.
Perfect. Leading right into that, what is like a technique that a junior could use off the top of your head to handle a mental challenge out on a golf course when one arises?
Okay. Yeah, that's read that question again to me. Would you please?
Yeah.
There, Lexi?
So what technique or what example of a technique do you have that a junior could use when a mental challenge arises on the golf course?
Okay, so I'm going to go back to what I said before a little bit about playing one shot at a time. And one of my favorite sayings came from a book I read by Jay Billis, who's a college basketball Hall of Fame guy that played with Duke. And his dad taught him to keep his head where his feet was. So always keep your head where your feet are. Okay, so concentrate on what you're doing. It does no good if you're in a tournament to be thinking about a test you need to study for. So you can't do anything about it at that time. So keep your head where your feet are. And, on the other side of that, you don't need to be worried about your golf game while you're trying to study for your physics test tomorrow, right? So concentrate on what you need to concentrate on. And let's be clear, you're going to have challenges on the golf course. And so the first thing I'd want to do is, I'd want to think back to a time where I overcame some challenges on the golf course. And the last thing I want to do is compound a challenge with a bigger challenge. So don't take a bad situation and make it worse. I think, in one-way golf speak, we teach and go about O-loops. And O-loops are simply what, why, and how. So what outcome do you want for the shot that you have in front of you? Why do you want this outcome, and how am I going to make that outcome happen? And if you can circle back to those three questions, what, why, and how, if you know what you want to do, then you know why you want to do it, and then you can figure out how to do it. So we want to feel the swing you need to produce the shot that you want. Every tour player, I would just challenge everybody that's listening that when you hear a tour player talk, you're going to hear them talk about feel over and over and over again, because they don't have a TrackMan on the 16th hole to look at to see what went wrong. They have to feel it. And so that's the main thing. And then I'm going to give a little longer answer to this question in saying that if you can remain optimistic out on the golf course, that's one of the biggest tricks to playing great golf, is just staying optimistic. It's a feeling, it's a belief that good things are going to happen. Something excellent is right around the corner. Find the good side to every aspect of the game. Optimistic players play better. It's a proven fact. If you're optimistic, you play better golf. So optimistic players know that no matter what happens, they will turn into something positive. And that's really, really important. Optimistic players live in a world of yet. I haven't played my best round yet. but it's just around the corner. The putts aren't falling yet, but I know I'm going to start seeing everything go in the hole soon. So we want to say super optimistic. Pessimists see trouble on every tee box, over every shot. In their minds, their hearts, their hands, all they see is difficulty. So everything becomes a crisis with a pessimistic player. And when it comes to being optimistic, everything just becomes easier. Optimistic players see opportunity and opening, a chance for, to be successful. And no matter what happens, they find an opportunity to improve. Every shot, every experience is an opening or a prospect to hit a great shot. So I could go into a little deeper there, but I think I've probably covered that one pretty well. There is nothing better than being optimistic out on the golf course. So if I could just pound that into every kid's head, I think we'd all have a lot more fun out there.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have some parents watching, obviously. So what can parents do to assist the mental game or help their junior golfers' mental game while they're on the course or while they're practicing? Provide some insight or some feedback regarding that.
Yeah. So I'm going to be careful what I say here because in full disclosure, I don't have any kids. So I'm not technically a parent, although I've probably taught thousands of kids through the course of my career. And I've got some thoughts about that. And, the first thing I'm going to say is support. This is, every kid needs the support of their parents. And I think the dream of playing golf at the next level, it really needs to be the dream of the child and not the dream of the parent. But, for the most part, the parents that I see are time and time again super supportive and are trying to do the right thing for their child every time, and the support just can't be overlooked. The one thing I would say is parents shouldn't be afraid to let their kids fail. I think we learn the most by failing. I don't think we learn a whole lot by being successful. And, in golf, if you looked at it and said, well, only the winner of every tournament was successful, then this would be a pretty tough game to play. But I think there's a lot of different ways to measure success and satisfaction for that matter. And so I'm careful what I say to parents because I'm not one, but I will say this from experience. I think most of the parents are out there watching their kids, and so then they've got that drive home together. And I don't think that's the best time to talk to their kids about what just happened out on the golf course. Even if it was great, I think it's always great to let everything simmer down. Let's not get emotional about anything. And let's talk about it over dinner. Let's talk about it the next day over breakfast when everybody has settled down. And so that's kind of where I come on that. Just if the parents are supportive, then that's a really winning combination as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, great answer to that one. And then we will wrap up with you, John, with one just quick question. Everyone, loves watching PGA, the professional, live, all of them. What professional golfer, in your opinion, demonstrates a strong mental game that juniors can look up to as someone who could be a role model for them as they look to strengthen their mental game?
Well, yeah, I don't think anybody gets to the PGA Tour or the LPGA Tour, for that matter, without having some high level of mental game. But I do think it's interesting that I think probably most of the people that we're talking to today have seen the Netflix specials of Full Swing, and I think the third series starts tonight, is available today, if I'm not mistaken. But if you watch what Joel Damon was going through, if you watch what Wyndham Clark was going through, and, you know, I think one of the strongest guys out there that has an unbelievable mental game is Brooks Koepka, and they highlighted him when he was at his lowest. And so, you know, the one thing about golf is that if you're not playing good, give it some time. It'll get better. It's gonna change. It's gonna get better. But two people that I really historically have been greatly impressed by. I don't think there's ever been anybody stronger mentally than Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus. And what I'll say about Jack Nicklaus is I've seen a few videos about people talking about him, and they said that Jack Nicklaus was less distracted in his practice and his tournament play than any player they had ever seen. There could be a car wreck that happened 100 yards from him, and he would not even know it happened because he was so into what he was doing. So I think Nicklaus, you know, maybe I'm aging myself there a little bit, but, you know, I got to watch the tail end of his career at the same age that a lot of these kids are, and he's kind of always been my favorite. And then I'm going to name two other people, and Nelly Korda by far has one of the strongest mental games in the ability to forget when she needs to forget things. But one of my favorite stories that happened just, I think in 2022 at the Wyndham Championship, Tom Kim started out his first hole of the day on Thursday with a quadruple bogey 8 on a par 4. And I would venture to say that almost anybody that started out 4 over par after their first hole is at best trying to fight their way back and make the cut. But he went ahead and won by 5 shots, which is stupidly amazing. I don't know how you do that, but I know the way he did do that was that he stuck to his processes. He stuck to what he knew how to do. He knew how to stay in the moment. He didn't get ahead of himself. He didn't come up to the second hole and say, well, this tournament's over. I just made an 8. Doesn't matter what you make. You go through your processes and you stick with one shot at a time. I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. So that's my answer.
Well, that's a great answer. You definitely provided a lot of good influences and, you know, people that professional players that juniors can look up to on the mental side of it. So I'm going to kick it over to Connor, and Connor is going to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Rich Ballinger.
Dr. B, how are you? Thank you for joining us.
I'm great. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, I've got a couple questions, just kind of about careers in golf. Maybe a little bit more on the side of working, a little bit less on the side of playing. So we'll go ahead and get started. As the head of the PGM program at Sam Houston State over here in Huntsville, go ahead and just tell us, what is the PGM program and where can I find it?
Sure. Yeah. PGA golf management programs used to be referred to as PGM programs. Now we've kind of rebranded to PGA golf management, but we're one of 16 in the United States of America. And this is the only accredited program in the state of Texas. And so kind of in short, PGA golf management programs allow you to pursue a college degree, in our case, a business degree, and complete all of the PGA of America membership requirements at the same time. So students leave our university with a Bachelor of Business Administration degree and are Class A members of the PGA of America. And with that, we boast 100% job placement upon graduation. And so in addition to the normal university curriculum, business curriculum, students pass the PGA of America's playing ability test. They complete 16 months of internship work, and they complete the PGA of America's 4-leveled educational curriculum. And so it's a really exciting opportunity to get a degree and complete that PGA membership at the same time. A really exciting part of the program is the internships. And in our 20 years of existence, we've already placed students in 48 of the 50 states across the U.S. We've had students on staff during major championships, PGA championships, U.S. Opens, the Players Championship, et cetera. And so there's wonderful opportunities to get out and get some practical work experience, work for some of the best golf professionals in the country, and build your network.
Tell me, oh, we were muted. So go ahead and tell me, what does it mean to be a member of the PGA of America?
Sure. Well, PGA of America members are we're the experts in the business and in the game of golf, and so virtually every aspect of the industry, whether it's tournament operations, whether it's what we know as the traditional club professional working at a club, teaching and coaching, club fitting, section offices, you'll find PGA members that are in prominent roles there in a lot of those jobs. So it's looked upon as the gold standard for anyone in the industry when you're a PGA of America golf professional.
Absolutely. So go ahead and tell me, obviously going into college or graduating high school, getting ready, sending applications here, there, everywhere. Yeah. What is the application process like for the PGA golf management program versus just a normal college application?
Sure, it's actually pretty simple. You just have to apply to and be accepted to the university. Very simple. And then on top of that, we have a separate application process. And that application process is very simple. But what it does include is a handicap requirement, handicap verification of 12 or better. And so the reason for that is that a condition of graduation is that you do have to pass the PGA of America's playing ability test, which is part of the PGA membership requirements. And so we estimate that you have to be, or I estimate you have to be probably about a 4 to 5 handicap to be able to pass that PAT. So we have to, we put a maximum requirement of 12 because getting down from a 12 down to that level is can be challenging. And so with that being said, if we admit 12s and takes a 4 to 5 to pass the PAT, we have a pretty extensive player development program. And we're very fortunate that just up the road from us is the #1 rated golf course in the state, Whispering Pines Golf Club. And the golf professional there is one of our best teachers in the section. And he's won numerous awards, Golf Digest, Golf Magazine. He's been published everywhere. And we've involved him in our player development program. And he assists our students in getting down to that level to be able to pass the playing ability test. Additionally, because of our relationship with him, a lot of our students end up working at that facility in their outside operations and their caddy program. And also his entire professional staff, including his head professionals and assistants, are all graduates from our program. So we have a really nice relationship there. It's just up the road from us on Highway 19 as you head up out of Huntsville and into Trinity. And so we've got a great relationship with Whispering Pines.
Absolutely. So go ahead and tell me, what kind of opportunities can becoming a PGA of America member through the PGA Golf Management Program, what kind of opportunities could that provide? What kind of career paths can come from having that those 3 letters right after your name?
Yeah, great. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of opportunity. The majority of our students are going to graduate and they're going to enter what we call the green grass side of the business, working at a golf course or driving range. A big bulk are going to go on to become assistant professionals at a facility and ultimately try to work their way up to become a head professional, director of golf, and maybe even a general manager. However, PGA of America membership, you can do many different things. There's expanded career opportunities. Essentially, if it's anything golf related, then you can maintain your membership in the PGA of America. We have graduates that work for manufacturers, Titleist. We have graduates that are also, let's see, we have the territory rep, Houston territory rep for Easy Go golf cars is one of our graduates. We have some that specialize in teaching, teaching only, some in club fitting. We have a graduate there that works at the Southern Texas PGA section as your assistant executive director, Scott Archer. So if it's anything golf related, you can maintain your membership in the PGA of America. But again, the majority do go that route of being in that green grass route and working up from being an assistant professional up through the ranks there.
Very good. So the big question is, once you graduate college and you're officially a PGA of America member through the PGA Golf Management Program, once you start working in it, do you think that takes away from playing? Will this working in it take away from the playing opportunities?
Yeah, that's kind of one of those things that gets around, that you don't play when you're in the industry, and I can tell you that's not true. The opportunities are endless for you to be able to play and compete. Our Southern Texas PGA section has an extensive tournament program. There's tons of opportunities for you to be able to play and compete. In fact, if you play well in our section championship, you can qualify for the PGA National Championship. And if you finish in the top 20 there, then you can play in one of golf's 4 major championships at the PGA Championship. So no, if you're working at a golf course and that green grass side I've talked about, you're going to be expected to play golf with your members, your customers, etc. And if you want to take your golf game to the next level and compete in those section events, and there's incredible amount of tournament, the purses are incredible if you want to play and compete at that level on the section side. So no, I don't agree with that. If you're committed to playing, enjoy playing, there's plenty of opportunities to be able to do that.
Well, that's just awesome. It's always nice to maybe end the day in the pro shop by playing 9 holes. So that just kind of
Absolutely.
leads me into my last question for you. Why, if we were to turn back the clock on you a little bit, why would you join the PGA Golf Management Program today?
Yeah, well, actually, I did. When I graduated high school, I joined one. I graduated from one of the original 4, Fair State University. One of the things that turned me onto it is that ability to get a degree and complete those membership requirements at the same time. When I started the program here 20 years ago, and one of the things I was felt very strongly about was I put the business degree as the major and the golf as the concentration. We all know that sometimes life changes, circumstances change, and people change. And while I encourage all of our students to stay in the industry, that's not a reality. And what they do have, though, to fall back on is a business degree. Right now, 6 of the 10 most in-demand degrees are in business, supply chain management, accounting, and finance, etc. And so you always have a business degree to fall back on if you do get out of the industry. But the other part of the equation I wanted to mention too is that I saw a recent survey that said that 70% of Americans are either disengaged with or hate their jobs. And I've got to say, if you're working in golf, it's probably something you're very passionate about, and it's a great way to make a living. On top of that, the business is booming right now. As a lot of you may know, COVID was actually a godsend for the golf industry. We've been booming ever since. Golf was social distance by nature, so people took up the game. People that we call lapsed players that played but didn't play anymore got back into the game, and business is absolutely booming. There's a high demand for people to work in the industry, and we have an aging membership. Where 53% of our PGA members are over the age of 50. So we have a high demand for people to work in the industry. Some great jobs are going to be opening up in the near future. And quite honestly, we're seeing wages in the industry that we've never seen before for entry level people. And so I tell people all the time, I've never seen a better time to be getting into the industry because of that increased pay, the demand, and the job opportunities that are going to be in the future. And what a great way to make a living being involved in golf.
Absolutely. That's it's always good insight. It's also definitely a blessing to know that even once you become or make a career out of it, it's not, the playing aspect isn't in the past. It's still much in the present. So definitely appreciate all the feedback there. And I'll throw it back over to Lexi, and we will start asking our college coaches some questions.
Thank you very
again,
much.
Rich.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So now our final little breakout session of the night is with our two college coaches, Jordan Cox with University of Mary Hardin-Baylor, traveling back from a tournament and still making it. So thank you so much for taking the time and tuning in from a car. So we really appreciate it. And then we have Ms. Mesha Levister from Prairie View A&M University. So first and foremost, welcome you two. Rudy is not on the call. Hopefully he will be able to join a little bit later. He did email me a little bit having some problems, but no problem. We're still blessed with two amazing coaches. So first and foremost, maybe Mesha and Jordan just explain how you got to being a college coach and kind of your career path to get where you are today.
Go ahead, Jordan. You're on mute.
How about that? So, but,
There you go.
yeah, Mesha, we waved at you when we drove by your campus coming in from Houston earlier.
Hey.
Yeah. Listen, my story is really long. I'll try to make it very brief. I was a sportscaster for since the 11th grade when I started sportscasting, and not until really latter in my college time when I was covering golf. So Dale Morgan, who was at Austin Country Club for a long time and had been in Waco where I grew up, he and several others kind of took me under the wing, and I just kind of fell in love with the game. But sportscasting, I had done some full-time ministry in sports and recreation. I just kind of fell in love with the game. And Ray Lamb, who was a teaching professional in the Waco area, helped me a lot in my instruction. And I eventually fell into the job as a high school coach in Northwest Arkansas, where we lived for a while. And then Sylvia Verdon at Baylor University hired me as her assistant women's coach there. So I coached the Big 12 for a number of years before going to Mary Hardin-Baylor and coaching them in, and I'm in my 10th year there.
Wow. My story's not quite that fancy. So that's pretty cool. My story is kind of a little bit different than that. I did a lot of things very backwards. So I actually played golf in college, and then I actually left to pursue other things. I actually went to become a PGA professional and did not pass that very well. And I was a very good player. So I ended up going to Q school and turned pro and did everything very backwards. So my first year on tour was when I was 29. And I got out when my father died and went back into green grass as an assistant professional. One thing led to another, went back to college, got asked, hey, do you want to come be a golf coach? I said, okay. And here I am 5 years later as a head coach of Prairie View A&M. I'm the head men's and women's golf coach of this lovely Division I program right outside of Houston.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for sharing. And I know one major question is, how do the different levels of collegiate play different from one another? You know, you have the Division I, you have, the Power 5 schools, you have NAIA, Division II, Division III. So what kind of is different between all of them, and maybe like the recruiting process for the different levels?
So I would say I'm not very well versed, unfortunately, with a lot of other things. I would say for us, from my experience, our footprint's just a smidge bigger, kind of at the Division I level. I literally just flew in from Florida this morning, from Fort Lauderdale. So, kind of our footprint kind of spreads across the country, and kind of, Puerto Rico is something that we've done in the past. So my women just got back from Florida this morning. My men will be going to play Torrey Pines in a couple of weeks. So we kind of go east and west, north and south. So it really just depends on kind of where it takes us. And, we still are in the same pool with, your Alabamas and all your Sam Houstons. We actually did play in Sam Houston's tournament about 2.5 weeks ago. So we're kind of all in that same pool. So I would say the biggest difference for us is kind of, I think that our footprint's a little bit bigger and we get on a lot of planes if we need to.
I think that's very accurate. From my time at the Big 12, I can tell you from the recruiting standpoint, that's exactly right. I mean, trips to Sweden, Denmark, things like that, doing recruiting in addition to being across the country. At the Division III level, the budgets are a little more limited, although we still recruit internationally. There's not quite as much travel in terms of tournament play and those kinds of things. We do Florida, we do California, those kinds of things. But typically for us, in the US, maybe say two plane trips instead of 4 or something. Today, for example, I was going to tell you one thing that's not different between Division I and Division II, or Division III, or AI, or junior college is this. I don't know if you can see in the back of the van here. That's pretty universal. We started the day at about 5 o'clock this morning. We played 36 holes yesterday, the first and second round of the tournament. We had a fog delay of an hour. That part's not in.
Long days. That's all I can say is it sounds like long days and traveling right back at it.
I'll go ahead and pick up the next question, and Jordan, I'll ask you first, and Mesha, you can follow. When does the recruiting process start for these junior golfers?
That's a terrific question. It's different for everyone. I get asked this a lot. When you see, for example, an 8th grader, wow, that school, that big top level Division I school is recruited in 8th grade. How are they doing that? Well, first of all, they're not officially a recruitable athlete at that point by rule, but through back channels and those kinds of things, well, how can they recruit an 8th grader? Well, that 8th grader is already putting up the kinds of numbers that those coaches need from the yardages that those coaches need. And that's how 8th graders, quote unquote, get recruited. And so it's different for everyone. When those things kind of come along, we typically are looking at 10th and 11th graders at my university. But I'm still getting a lot of inquiries from kids who want to play this fall, 2025, although our class is full. So my suggestion is just to start getting your name out there and looking at schools you may be interested in and sending those coaches an email somehow, getting in touch with them. The services are great. They really are. But I'm just going to tell you, and I'm sure Mesha gets far more than me, but if you don't take into account just the recruiting services, I'm probably getting in the neighborhood of 250 inquiries a month at our school. So just think about how many people you're competing against, in addition to all of those names that come from the recruiting services.
Absolutely. That's definitely a lot of emails you can get at one time. I'll let Mesha answer her end, and then we'll throw it over to Coach Gonzalez for an introduction.
We figured out the technical difficulties, so I'm so glad everyone is here, one big Google Meet. So thank you for your patience, Rudy. I appreciate it. I was trying to go through it.
No worries.
Mesha, what would you say? When does the recruiting process start for these junior golfers? I think she might have froze.
Well, while she unfreezes, I apologize. We had a fog delay at St. Mary's and at the Dominion in San Antonio, and it was a long round, and I had to drive in, and you coaches know how that goes. I see Jordan's driving, but I just made it back to Laredo, and I had some difficulties logging on, so I apologize that I heard some of the earlier stuff. Excellent. John, everything was, heard some of it, really good stuff. But yeah, Coach Gonzalez, Rudy Gonzalez from Texas A&M International University down here in Laredo, Texas. We are a Division II institution in the Lone Star Conference. Really big Division II conference with 16 to 18 teams, depending on whether it's men or women. But really big conference, really fun to be a part of, and very competitive.
Absolutely. Since we lost Mesha, I guess you're having a little bit of technical difficulty there. Can't ever trust the internet, it seems. When would you say the recruiting process begins for a lot of these junior golfers?
It varies. I think that, summer of 8th grade year, you need to start preparing to be a part of a high school team. And some of the things that go along with that are some of the things that will help you in college. Being a good teammate, being coachable, getting some good study habits, and building good patterns around that. And so I think that, freshman year, golf scores start to count a little bit on the high school level in terms of like your district and regional and state. So I think we start looking at scores, or at least I do, freshman year, sophomore year, start looking at how they're doing in their high school environments and stuff. And I think that's kind of when it begins for me.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So, as a junior is starting out on their recruiting process, kind of dipping their toes in the water, it can seem intimidating. So what is advice that you guys have for someone who is not familiar with the recruiting process, and probably what's a good starting point for them?
Jordan, go ahead.
Well, I think that's also different for everyone, because I think a lot of that has to do with the desires of the prospective student athlete, what they want, what they're looking for. Are they comfortable going halfway across the country to go to school? What would they like to study? Looking for a certain kind of geography in terms of the size of the city, town, those kinds of things. What are they wanting to study? Do they want a big school, or do they want a small school? Is the number after the D really important to them? What kind of community are they? I think all of those things have to do, or perhaps with the person that it does the institution, because I think there's a little of that everywhere around the country. A lot of great places to be recruited. So I guess I would start with that for them. How far away are you comfortable being from home? Do you want to be within 2 or 3 hours of home? You can draw a circle on a map and see what institutions fit. The other thing I think too, about being pie in the sky, I think it's really important for student athletes, or prospective student athletes, to look at those schools and see if the scores that they're putting up are consistent with the numbers that those coaches are recruiting. It doesn't make a lot of sense to spend a lot of time, if you're averaging 85, to think that a school who is putting folks on the PGA Tour, LPGA Tour, is going to have a spot for them. I'm not saying it's not possible to improve. I'm just saying I think it would help the recruiting process for many if they'd be a little bit perhaps more realistic. And I don't know how to soften saying that, but I hope that comes across the right way.
Yeah, I think that's covering a lot of bases, but I think first and foremost, I think you got to get really good at golf. If your goal is to play collegiate golf, you need to work on skill acquisition, developing the skills that are involved with college golf. I mean, and once you get there and you start seeing that you're competitive on your local and regional level, maybe even state level, then you can maybe start reaching out to some coaches. I mean, I don't know about everybody on the panel here, Mesha and Jordan, but sometimes we get emails with people that shoot in the high 90s, and it's like, I just played a golf tournament where if we didn't break 76, we're in trouble, So you just got to be get as good as you can get at golf, in your early years, and skill acquisition should be first and foremost, and then you can start kind of planning what Jordan just explained.
Sorry, technology is not my best friend right now, so I do apologize. My computer just said, nope, you won't be on here today. So luckily my iPad was for the clutch. So what was the question? And I'll chime in happily.
Absolutely, no problem. Ms. Mesha, I'll go ahead and repeat it. So we talked about the recruiting process. The question was, what advice do you have for someone who's not familiar with the recruiting process, and what's a good place to get started?
I did hear the responses, and I totally agree with the guys on that one. I mean, and at the end of the day, you do have to be pretty good at golf, especially, you know, at any level, whether it's, even if it's JUCO, D2, D3, D1, NAIA, anywhere, you're going to have to be halfway good at golf. You know, and if you're bad and you just want to get, you know, and you have aspirations, you can send an email. I'm not going to lie. I get emails from kids all the time. But if you're going to send that email when you're a freshman just to get on the radar of your dream school, make sure that you follow up so that you're showing improvement. So if you're that kid that's shooting 90, show improvement, you know, because at the end of the day, don't waste our time. We can't talk to you in the 9th and the 10th grade, but if you're that kid that shoots 90, 80, and then by the time your junior year comes around, now you're shooting in the low 70s, you've put some work in, and we know that you've put work in. But if you're that kid that, you know, is shooting in the 70s, and now you're on our radar, and now you took a year off, and now you're shooting in the 80s, now it's like, you might be a little lazy, and now you're falling off. So now we gotta start asking you some questions. So, you know, for me, it's like, you know, kind of do the work, and it's do the little stuff. And you know, for me in the recruiting process, it's about doing the little stuff. You know, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm one of those coaches that looks at all the little stuff, and I'm very particular about, you know, I'm going to look at a golf swing. If you send me a golf swing, I'll look at it, but I'm looking at the stuff that people don't normally look at. Like, did you capitalize your name in the email? Did you put my full name, or did you address me as coach? Like, I'm looking at that stuff. Are you spelling my name right? Did you put Coach Cox in an email to me? You know, you're not paying attention to emails. You know, you're not paying attention to details. If you're not going to pay attention to a detail in the recruiting process, you're not going to pay attention to detail when you get to me. So, you know, that's a little thing for me. Just pay attention to details when you're sending us these emails and doing all these things. But get good at golf first.
Yeah, I do want to add something that I missed. I'm starting to see a trend that you know. So we're obviously in the business of taking in high school kids and growing them, and them becoming adults and learning how to live on their own in a sense, you know, in college. So I think that if you're not familiar with how it works and how you attract attention, first of all, it is our job to find talent. So if you're out there doing the right things and playing well, I feel like it's my job to know who you are. So I am always looking. So, you know, you can send emails and stuff like that. That's great. And we're going to talk about that in the next couple of questions, I believe. But it is our job to find talent, and that's what we do every day. But most importantly, we want to know that our recruits are going to be able to grow, live alone, and grow as adults. So to start out, I think that a junior golfer needs to write emails and make phone calls. I get calls from parents every week. Hey, you know, so-and-so is my kid. You know, he's a great golfer. Like, I don't want to hear from the parents. These kids need to kind of take ownership in what they want to do and their goal structure, and send these emails and make these phone calls. I think that's really important for their growth and prepare them for college golf.
Absolutely. I think that's kind of a perfect segue into the next question that I had prepared for each of you. And Coach Gonzalez, I'll send it your way first. What kind of personal characteristics or what kind of factors do a lot of coaches look at or look for in players when the recruiting process starts?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, and I'll let Mesha and Jordan talk about the golf stuff and the swing stuff. But, you know, I'm also a golf instructor at a private club and director of instruction. So, you know, sure, I'm trained to look at swings and stuff, but I've kind of taken a different approach lately. I want to know how good of a teammate they are. I want to know how they interact with their high school coach, because more often than not, we get these talented players that I see year after year in the Lone Star Conference, and their teams do not perform. And when I dig deep and I talk to my fellow coaches and get examples of what's going on and why, these guys or girls are so good, what's happening? Well, there's drama on the team. So-and-so doesn't like each other, and this person, and it's cliquish. And I want to know, can you get along with 5 people on the road and not let bad things carry over into the round of golf and our performance? And those things, believe it or not, are huge. So my best players, my best teams have been the teams that have gotten along, not necessarily the best players. So I think that's huge.
Mesha, can you add on to that at all? What kind of personal characteristics do you look for in your players?
I'm gonna have to wholeheartedly agree with what Coach said. I mean, it's definitely how you treat your teammates and stuff like that. But what I'm also digging deeper into, how do you treat your parents? That's a big one. Like, what does that relationship look like? Because at the end of the day, if you're gonna disrespect your parents, or if you're gonna disrespect, them, you're definitely gonna disrespect me and your teammates. So that's never a good thing. So it's about what, at the end of the day, it's about character. Because when you get out on your own, if you have that kind of character with the people that you're closest with and the people that have loved you unconditionally your whole life, what are you going to do about somebody that's going to create a little bit of a boundary that you might not be used to, that you might not like, but it's beneficial for you? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're there for. We're there to help you, tap into a potential that you may not have had in high school. And we're there to make you better at the end of the day, regardless of how you may feel about it. So, the workouts that you may go through, they're gonna be hard and they're gonna suck. But we're doing that for you. We're not doing that for us. It doesn't give us joy to make you suffer. It's there to help you. So, it's not meant for us to punish you, but you're not going to have your safety blanket there. And what does that look like? So, if you are going to be, how are you going to treat your parents, your siblings, and the people that are your circle? Because your circle is going to grow when you get to college. And so now your circle becomes your coaches, your admins, and the people that are going to consume you when you get there, along with your parents. So, I agree with Coach. I don't necessarily talk to a whole lot of parents, but like, we have you're adults once you get to college. So we have to be able to, be with you, and you have to be able to trust us to continue to guide you into being the best possible adult that you can be on and off the golf course.
That's awesome. Jordan, can you add?
Yeah, I don't know that I can add a lot, but I will say I hope the people that are tuning in are really paying attention to what the coaches are telling them, because that is absolutely gospel truth. All of it is. We want top shelf students. We want top shelf people, top shelf citizens. I don't know what word you want to put on it. We want the people of first class. We want the best we can absolutely get, because they represent not just our game and our teams, but our institute.
Must be going through a little trouble.
Gonzalez said about the details and having it be you instead of your parents. I'm back here going, yes. That's how they're saying those things, because it's so true. How would you feel as a prospect if you got an email or a letter from one of these coaches that said, "Dear prospect," you would go, "Well, they didn't even bother to look up my name. They didn't even see my name on the rankings." Well, how do you think a coach feels when they use "Dear Coach" or "Hey" instead of saying "Coach" whatever? They just put "Hey." And the respect that Mesha was talking about from a parent story, when I was recruiting at a top 60 player in the country, interested in coming to Baylor, and she absolutely dressed down her father in the parking lot following a competitive round, and we stopped recruiting her because of that. If she's going to treat her dad that way, who's biologically related to her, how in the world is she going to treat us? We're not even blood related. So what these coaches are telling you guys is really, really good. I hope everybody's so good at it.
Absolutely.
If I have a few seconds, could I add something on the golf performance side?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Real briefly, keep the ball in play off the tee. I know everyone's trying to hit it long. Keep it in play. Manage the distance your ball rolls on the putting green. Like if we didn't have 3 putts yesterday and today, or much less, many less 3 putts than we had, it would have been a different outlook for us. So, avoid 3 putting, distance control, and stamina. Playing 36 holes on a Monday with a terrible sandwich in between those 2 rounds is a tough task. You need to learn how to play 36 holes. You don't do that in high school enough. Please do it.
Absolutely.
Can I add one thing to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to kind of, and it's not about kind of the golf we played because we didn't play that well yesterday either. But I will say this, like when it comes to the recruiting process too, like when I'm looking personally, I'm not sure about you guys, coaches, but anybody can play good on a good day. Let's just be real. What I'm looking for is how you deal with adversity. What does it look like when you hit a bad shot? Like, what does it look like when you hit it in the trees? Are you trying to be a hero, or are you trying to get it out and you're trying to minimize? That's what we're looking for. Like, we're looking for that. Also, how do you play in bad weather? Like, how do you act in bad weather? Are you out there pouting and got your head down, or are you that person that's out there, all right, the rest of the field is mentally out of it, so let me go win this golf tournament? Are you that person? Because if you're that person, I want you. Because that means you're mentally tough and you're my kind of person. Because anybody can play good in good weather, but everybody can't play bad in bad weather. When it's cold, when it's raining, when you just don't want to be there, when you don't have it, when you only have 10% to give. If you only have 10% to give it. But that's what we're looking for. So when we're recruiting you, like, have a great attitude. And even if you're a junior, sophomore, or even in the 8th grade, we might be there to see the senior that's playing with you. But you can get noticed just by that. And now, like, there's been plenty of times I'm like, oh, who is that? Okay, let me talk to them later. So you never know who's looking. So it's about keeping, and Mr. John was right. Like, you got to stay positive. You got to stay optimistic because you never know who's looking.
Yeah, great points. All 3 of you coaches. Do you have one more thing to say, Jordan?
Keeping those doubles up hard is a big deal too.
Yes, but you guys definitely provided a lot of insight, not just putting up the scores that you needed, but character speaks a lot to, the recruitment process as well. And so now that we are also in a big digital age, is there a role that social media plays in the recruitment process, like to connect with teams, to connect with coaches, to connect with schools that they're interested in? I know you guys mentioned a lot about emails, but I didn't know if like having an Instagram for a junior golfer helps, or what's kind of the role that social media plays for the recruiting process. Mesha, I'll have you start.
That's the first place I go. I get an email and I see a golf swing. Let me go check his Instagram. That's the first place I go. I'm not going to lie. Because, I want to see, what are you posting? Do you have social media? Because, let's be real. We're in the NIL age. Like, you're going to be wanting to market yourself. And how are you going to market the university? Because regardless of how you want to know it or not, once you become a college golfer at whatever level it is, you are now in a very low percent of people. Like, you've made it at the end of the day. You become a role model, whether you like it or not. So, you have to carry yourself in such a way. So the first place I go, are you out here scantily clad? We don't want that. Are you posting, stuff that you shouldn't be posting? Are you posting positive stuff? That's a good thing. Are you posting golf stuff? That's a good thing. But are you posting stuff? I mean, that's the first place we're going. And then for me, I want to know if you're following us back, because that means you're invested in what we're doing. And then you get on a recruiting call with us or me and my staff. Now you can spit back some of the stuff that we've had. Now I know that you're invested in our program. And, if I was on a call with Coach Cox, I'd be like, yeah, I saw what y'all did the other day over at the golf course. That was kind of cool. So that goes a long way with us. And that can be a check for your box if that's somewhere you really want to go.
Jordan, anything to add with that?
No, I did so. The first thing I do when we're serious at all about prospective student athlete is look at their social media accounts or try to find those social media accounts and see what kinds of things they post. It's a big deal. I don't think you could overemphasize these days just how big that is. And it's really important for, I think, young people to exercise extreme caution, not just for their futures, but for their safety about the things that they post and the things that they allow their friends to post. That's a big deal. It really is. I appreciate Mesha mentioning that.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, when we come across some names and some scores, or we get an email that's attractive, or there's some things we like about what they're writing about or what they're sending us, it's standard now to see what's out there on social media and the athlete's name and it's funny because I think, like, and I heard another coach friend of mine, colleague, say that, if you go through like their last 20 posts, you kind of get a sense of what type of player they are, what kind of person they are. It's really weird to say that. I'm kind of old school in that way. I can't believe 20 posts would tell me a lot about a person, but it kind of does. Though it's just a big part of it now. And like Coach Mesha said about NIL, these kids are feeling they need to post and support things and represent things. And, I have a kid with some sport energy powder that, they keep posting about, and it's just a big part of it now. And we just have to navigate through that. And all I will say, it can make or break you. Social media can make or break you as a player. It's just a big part of it now.
Very good points from all three college coaches. So now we're kind of wrapping up the end of the seminar. We are leaving the last 10 to 15 minutes for question and answer for either John, Rich, or our three coaches, Jordan, Mesha, or Rudy. There is a section in this Google Meets where you can have Q&A, where you can ask questions. We already have a few. So I can go ahead and ask some of those. You can also chat it in the box, and we can end on a few questions. So first question we got, as someone who's coming up, this is from Caitlin. So I'll say from Caitlin, as someone who's coming up from the recruiting process as a homeschool student, how can she get herself noticed?
I would say emails and videos. I mean, that's the biggest things. Play some golf tournaments. That's going to be kind of the biggest ones. Like, because however you can get yourself exposed. Honestly, for me, I become a detective. So once I get the emails, I become a detective. I'm on my phone looking at Instagram. I'm Googling your name to see what you've played in. And if I don't find anything on you, that's a red flag for me. So, because that means you haven't played in any competition. So I'm not going to know how you fare in competition. So especially at the Division I level, we want to see how you're playing, especially from the female side, because there is a big gap. So when you're playing high school golf, or when you're playing kind of smaller tour golf, smaller junior golf, you're playing from 51 to 5,200 yards. When you come to college, you're playing 6,000 to 6,300 yards. So there's a gigantic gap there. So we need to see how you play in bigger tournaments. So that's one of the biggest things that happens. I definitely become a detective, and I'm pretty sure a lot of my colleagues do as well.
I think with what Coach Gonzalez says is exactly right. You know, golf can be expensive, depending, and not everybody has the resources to be able to fly over the country and play in top junior tournaments or whatever it may be. I tell people who ask that, who may have limited resources, like the majority of people who play golf, and that is play the very best competition you can find. If that's in your city, go play the city championship. If that's in your region, go whatever it is, go play the very best competition you can find, so that's how you can get noticed.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with all of that. I mean, I have players. I've had players from all over the world. I've had on a homeschool All-American. I've had great high school players in Texas, 5A, 6A. I don't think it really matters where you get educated or where you play. I think if you put up scores, we will hear about you. Like Coach Mesha said, we're detectives. If I see a girl that shoots a 69 in an STPGA event, I'm writing her name down, and we're going to dig deep and see, and then maybe go watch them play. So it's about scores for me. It's about showing that you have some skill or that you're getting better, as we mentioned earlier. Sometimes you email a coach, say, oh, I shot 80, 81. And a year later, it's like 71, 73. Well, you know, I think that if you're putting up scores and playing, you know, I think STPGA Junior Tour, Prestige Tour is a great tour. I get a lot of names from there. So just play tournaments and score well, and we'll find you.
Awesome. Yes, keep playing Southern Texas PGA events. Connor and my events. We love seeing you out there.
Sure.
Yes. Next question is for John. What was the name of the book that you referenced when speaking about the mental game?
I've got a few here, but the one I mentioned real quick was, I think, with Jay Billis. It's called Toughness by Jay Billis. But I do want to plug a couple other books real quick. Every kid, every parent should read this book, Atomic Habits. This book is absolutely amazing and will help get your kids on the right track. And then real quick, Tim Grover, who is the trainer and mental coach for both Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. He wrote Winning, and he wrote Relentless. And these books are absolutely unbelievable to fathom. If you think you work hard, you don't, compared to what you're going to read in these books. So, but yeah, the original one was Toughness by Jay Billis.
Awesome. Next question is it beneficial to pay for a recruiting service or better to have the student reach out directly? Jordan, I'll have you start.
I was going to say, I want to go first.
Oh, no.
I think the answer to that is yes. I think it depends. I think the individually reaching out is really, really important, but I've recruited students off of recruiting services. I don't know how I'm going to know about a student here in Central Texas. How am I going to know about a student in Connecticut? Unless I see them on a rankings board, or if I don't see their scores in tournaments and those kinds of things. And so if that person's looking to perhaps come south for some warmer weather, then that's a really good way to be able to do that, because they may not be familiar with all of the schools in the South either. So I think that can be a both and thing, or it can be an either or thing.
That's a good answer. You know, if I had to lean one way, I probably wouldn't use a recruiting service. But then again, I've gotten some good players out of recruiting services. And it's not that, you know, I think the recruiting services do a good job of sending your profile to a bunch of coaches. So we get them. And, you know, I'd say maybe less than 10% of my players have come from recruiting services. But what I do see is that it's become big business, and you need to do your research on the recruiting service, and they're expensive. So you need to make sure, there's so many now. So I think it's like buyer beware. Like, just make sure you know who you're getting involved with. You know, where have they sent players? if you're going to use one. But I don't think you need to. I think you should spend most of your focus on getting better every day, 1% better, and put up scores, and you'll get recruited. I mean, I don't know, like Coach Cox says, it goes both ways. But if I had to lean one way, I wouldn't use them because I think that sometimes they rely a little bit too much on them. Like, oh, they're going to get me a place to play, and they might not work as hard. I don't know. I've seen so many different scenarios in that regard. But just work hard, get better every day, and we'll find you.
Yeah, Rudy, you're right about that. Absolutely.
All right, Mesha, what's your take on it?
I don't count anybody's coins. So, I mean, if you, I agree with both of the coaches. Like, I've done both. I definitely agree if you're trying to go out of state. I don't think that. I think it would probably be best to use their service to get recruited. To see what it is, because you need to look at that. But I think the biggest thing is make sure you have your list of schools that you want to go to, and be diligent. Unless you just have this blanket that I just want to go anywhere. But I think diligence is going to be the biggest thing when it comes to that. You don't need a recruiting service if you're going to be diligent, if you're going to do the right thing. And, just know that there's certain things that we need when you send us an email. Good grades, good golf swing, those are the things we need. Like, let us know small things. So give us small things that are going to make you stand out. Your GPA, what you shoot, those kind of things. Those are the things we need. Give us small snippets. We'll look at it. Holler at us.
All right. Following up with a question about social media. Olivia wants to know, would it be beneficial to post stats on social media to get noticed after emailing courses, after emailing colleges, scores, putts, etc.?
I think you can email them. I mean, I don't necessarily think you need, to me, in my opinion, sometimes it gets overlooked. And I mean, I don't necessarily, we're not detectives all the time. And, it depends on how many followers, I guess, the social media platform has. And sometimes unfortunately, sometimes it's maybe our assistants, or maybe a student worker for some of us that, may run our socials. So if you really want to get with the coaches, I think that the best way is kind of email, to kind of let us know what's going on, or just shoot us a DM. And, that's the biggest thing. I think it goes back to diligence. I think that's going to be one of the biggest words. If it's a school you really want to go to, just be diligent, but really figure out what that criteria is, and see if you can kind of fit that mold, because, what one coach may be looking for and what another coach may be looking for are very different. So, you might not fit in the role that year, but, I think diligence is going to be what that is.
Yeah, I think also one thing that has really helped me is being a Class A in the STPGA and being involved with so many of my colleagues, my fellow instructors in our section. Places like Access Golf Academy, those guys, you got to make sure that your swing coaches that you pay a lot of money to are promoting you and promoting your success. And I get calls all the time from my fellow Class A members and with, hey, I got this girl, I got this guy. What do you think? I really think you should take a look. So that's important too. If you can get your coaches to help you out, and they know college coaches and that's important. I think as PGA professionals, we have connections with colleges and they'll help you out. That's another avenue. And sometimes they post on their social medias. Look, Johnny here won a tournament and this and that. And we notice through that as well, networking.
One other thing I would say is if you're going to post them and or send them all. Don't just post the good ones. Because I hope my guys that are getting out of the van right now can hear this. Not everybody shoots a good round all the time. Right? So we get that as coaches. So don't just send the ones where you've had your best tournaments. We want to build both ends of those things. How did you respond? How do you rebound after a poor event or whatever? We want to see all of that because we deal with all of that. We get it.
Yeah. I think it's also important if you're going to post stats and results to post the environmentals too. Like, what was the wind? How long did the course play? What was it like? Because that tells a lot about your score as well. I know today some of the scores were high, but it was windy, it was firm, it was fast. There's a lot of things that contributed to that. So, you know, that's important as well if you're stat reporting or results reporting.
Just going to chime in on that too, but I mean, make sure that if you're posting your stats, that you're going to be okay to post those stats, that you're comfortable posting those stats, and that, you know, at the end of the day, the internet is the internet. So you don't want trolls to be on the internet and stuff like that. So I would just say beware of that, because, you know, that could be something that you could open yourself up to if, you know, somebody's got something to say that might be adverse to what you want to hear. So, you know, that could be something that you might want to be mindful of if you're going to post those stats.
Great insight on that. We do have 2 more questions to wrap up the night. The first question is, if I don't have the scores that I need for some schools, but I feel like I'm at the level where I can shoot the scores to be recruited by high-level coaches, should I continue to send emails despite having not showing low scores? Rudy, I'll let you start with that one.
Thanks. Well, it just, I think that sometimes what happens is that someone will shoot a 72 or 71 on a 6,500 yard course, and they think, well, I could play at Texas, or, you know, maybe I should email somebody like that. They shot a 71 this week, and I did too. And so you just got to be smart about it. Do your homework, understand what's going on, talk to your high school coaches. How does this compare to the courses that they're playing, you know, in college? I mean, we're playing 6,000 yards, 6,200 for women, sometimes 69 to 7,300 for men. Usually not favorable times of the year, so conditions are tough. So 75 in Oklahoma at the territory with 30-mile-an-hour winds is a lot different than a 75 at Landa Park in New Braunfels on a beautiful Saturday morning. So you've got to understand what's happening with the scores and just get a little educated on that before you shoot off emails to schools. I'm not saying that we're dream killers, but you got to be realistic about what you're sending out. And that doesn't mean that you can't get there and you won't get there. I've had a walk-on come in, and by the time he was a junior, he was a D2 All-American. So we're not going to just trash your email because you shot an 80. I mean, like Coach said, we want to see improvement. And we kind of know who's on the right pattern, who's on the right track by doing our research. So it's just one of those things. How does where I'm playing right now truly match up with the coach I want to email and where they play, and look at their schedules and Google the courses they play on the schedule and what time of year did they play. You know, one of the smartest emails I've ever received from a kid, like, hey, I know you played this course. I saw that it was windy. It was really hot and windy, and, you know, your team shot this. I'm not there yet, but I'll be there. Just that he took the time to look at what weather we played, and it was super important detail to me, and that was pretty cool. But you know, I can go on and on about that, but just kind of do your research on before you shoot emails off.
I totally agree. I mean, at the end of the day, the golf courses get bigger, faster, and stronger. I mean, that's what it is. You know, our kids' stroke averages go up every year, but they're playing golf courses that are hard. You know, they played alongside the Champions Tour in October. Of course, that golf course is harder. They're playing Torrey Pines in 3 weeks. That's going to be insanely difficult. They're going to Whistling Straits in May. So, you know, we're not playing easy golf courses. So when that stroke average is higher than it needs to be, you know, people look at it like, oh yeah, I can play there. But there's different things that you have to think about when you transition into college golf. Um, and that's the big thing that everyone has to think about, juniors and parents. The safety blanket is no longer there. There's a learning curve as well. There's freedom that you have to learn how to manage. You don't have your parents making sure that you're up in the morning. You may have a class at 10 a.m. and you can get up at 9:28 to be there, but you also may have a 5 a.m. workout that you have to be there and you're going to get held accountable for. So there's a curve that goes into being in college for the first time and learning how to navigate being a student athlete. It's not as easy as people think it is. So granted that you have 168 hours in your week and you're going to use 40 of them to be a student, and then you're going to use 25 to 30 of them or more to be, an athlete. And then you have 100 hours or so to be a college student, but you have to learn how to manage that time. So there is a curve that comes into that has to be navigated as you transition into college golf.
Thank you, guys. I apologize for giving it some direction here to our guys as we're getting home. I wonder about this in terms of the time and that growing up, that maturation process that we're looking for individuals, and the time that they spend on various things. Do they really want it? I think we all see the idea of college golf. There are a lot of people who say they want to be college golfers, but I think there are very few who are really dedicated to being a college golfer. You guys can tell. Coach Gonzalez just mentioned it. Mesha mentioned it already, and so have I. These days started early today. We were up early. We played 36 yesterday. We played 18 today. We're just now getting home. We started early. Mesha did. So did Coach Gonzalez. And here we are. These guys are getting home now. They got to go back to study for the 2 days of classes that they've missed and catch up on all those kinds of things. And I say this tongue in cheek. Golf is glamorous, isn't it? When you think about it that way, oh, it's so glamorous. That's the way everybody looked. It was very glamorous at about 4:45 this morning when we were getting ready to head to the golf course. But it is a ball. It's a blast. But you have got to be all in if you want to do it well.
Absolutely great insight. The good and the not so pretty of it. But our last question is, what is the earliest a player should be sending emails and contacting coaches? And then when can you guys start contacting them back? And what's the restrictions with that?
We can't really talk to sophomores and freshmen and sophomores. So that's why, some people are getting contacted in the 8th grade if you're doing really, really well. But we can't do anything with freshmen and sophomores. So I think it's June 15th or something like that. Of after you've completed your sophomore year is when you can start being contacted by college coaches. But if it's a school that you're really interested in, you can just make the coach aware. I'm very interested in your school. I know that you can't contact me right now, but this is what I'm shooting, and just get on their radar. Let them know that you're interested. And the best thing that you can do, in my opinion, is show a personal interest in the coach. So if you know something about Coach Gonzalez or Coach Cox, just let them know, like, I know that you're, I know that you are a Class A professional and I love the way you teach. I've seen you XYZ, XYZ. I love the way you run your team. That goes a long way in the early stages. And now they may put you in a file that says, okay, well, I might contact you then. But, after that, it's game on.
Yeah, I think I've had kids reach out, at the start of their high school career or the summer before, kind of like, hey, I'm heading to high school and, the next 2-3 years are really important to me, and just wanted to drop my name, and you will be hearing about me by my start of my junior year. So just I've had some clever emails come in like, remember the name, you know, I'm a program. I'll be a program changer in 2 years. Like just cool little taglines, you know, and make you laugh. And I'll save that one. That guy's funny, you know, that girl's funny. So just, yeah, we get them as early as summer of 8th grade year, heading into high school. But as Coach Mesha said, you know, that June 15th preceding junior year is kind of the time frame where it heats up and we start calling people and watching people and stuff like that.
Anything else to add, Jordan, before we wrap up?
No, I think that's good. I mean, the time frames are the same for everyone in terms of what's under the rules and kinds of things. And so you may get a response that's very, what's the word, sanitary, you know, get that sanitary response because that's what it has to be. But I'm Coach Gonzalez. My deal would be, what separates you from everybody else? What separates you from everybody else? Can you recognize that there are hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of people who come to the USA college golf, or that are in the USA that want to play college golf, and what separates you from them? And if it's paying attention to that program, Coach, I saw you guys just finished playing in San Antonio. Hey, congratulations on your finish. Hey, whatever it is, any of those things, like me said, those things stick.
Absolutely. Well, that is the conclusion of our Southern Texas PGA Virtual College Golf Seminar. So I want to give a big thank you to our panel, Jordan, Rich, John, Rudy, and Mesha. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to allow our members some insight on the mental game, life in college golf, the recruitment process, and also the PGA of America and the programs that are offered there. So big thank you to you all. We want to be respectful of your time and finish right close to 7:30. This video is recorded, so it will be saved and posted to STPGA Junior Golf and also sent out to the coaches and players at a later date. But once again, thank you all for your support and all of the knowledge and wisdom that you guys have provided in this hour and a half.
Thank you all again, and we look forward to seeing everybody out on the golf course here pretty soon.
Good. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you, Connor
all.
and Lexi.
Thank you all. Have a great rest of your Tuesday evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.